to Wizard Jail, a rewatch podcast for Visionaries, the 1980s toy commercial cartoon. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Ripoll.
And I'm Gabe Powers.
And we're still doing it. We're deep in it at this point. This is the show. We had our little intro 3-parter that was like, here's the world, here's the characters, here are the toys that you're going to be buying. And now we're just watching episodes of Visionary.
We have to finish now that we've started.
This is the real issue. This is a 8-episode podcast miniseries. It'd be really embarrassing if we stopped on episode 3. We just have to plow ahead, even if we don't want to. I would say these 2 episodes we're going to be talking about The Price of Freedom and Feryl Steps Out. These are not bad episodes, but they are definitely they have their ups and downs. And there's a certain theme that keeps getting hit over and over again in all of them that by the end of Feryl Steps Out, I was just so sick of this plot point. Mm-hmm. So we'll get there eventually. But so this is, again, we're in the world now. We have the 2 sides. We have the Spectral Knights versus the Darkling Lords. And there's not really a sense of like what either of their goals are. They're just kind of stumbling into adventures at this point. And now, episode 4, Price of Freedom, there is one new thing that's being introduced, which is we have a new writer. Who wrote this episode, Gabe?
This was written by Douglas Booth. His career is much the same as Flint Dill. They worked together on a lot of the same shows, though Booth has a couple more of the 90s classics under his belt because he kept on working, and he did some Ninja Turtles. He did some of the X-Men episodes. He did Skeleton Warriors. He did Street Sharks. And if you think Street Sharks is the most 90s a cartoon can get, he also did Pro Stars. Did you ever see Pro Stars or even know what the concept behind Pro Stars is, Patrick?
Okay, I just had to click on the Wikipedia page. I have heard of this. I didn't recognize it by name. But yes, the Bo Jackson, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan superhero show.
Yes.
Because it is 1991, and Sports Illustrated for kids has never been higher.
I was collecting both basketball and hockey cards at this point. So, yeah. And one of my favorite things about this show is that none of the... they didn't have time, obviously, but they're not voiced by the actual athletes. Sometimes they show up at the end to like have a little lesson. And if I remember right, Michael Jordan like never did it. It was always just Bo Jackson and Wayne Gretzky.
You cannot afford Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. You can use my likeness, but I'm not doing this. And the funniest part to me is that they cast Wayne Gretzky, who is literally one of the boringest personalities in all of sports. He's an amazing athlete. Maybe he will always be the best of the best when it comes to hockey players, but he is just a vacuum when it comes to personality. But they cast him as the snarky comic relief in this show.
Oh, very good. So they were definitely like really paying attention to all of these men's personas.
Yes.
And how to utilize them.
It was so weird that even I kind of stopped watching it, and I was like the perfect age. I was actually watching these sports and cartoons and collecting things.
To an extent, I think if you are going to be the kind of athlete who children love, you just like family friendly, you just have to be kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to give Charles Barkley a show.
No.
Because Charles Barkley in the 90s was way too salty. I mean, Michael Jordan was too, but Michael Jordan did a good job of keeping himself on the court separate from his guy selling Hanes.
Yeah.
But Douglas Booth is hilarious because he wrote for, like, Mighty Max and Street Sharks and all of these shows. And he is also a Harvard graduate who is a member of the landed gentry, I think. I do not know. A baronetcy. There have been 3 baronetcies created for persons with the surname Booth. So he, like, his coat of arms is on his Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
He is a baronet, whatever that means. I guess my guess would be it's just below baron.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is like... This is either the fail son career where he was supposed to like achieve great things and instead he wrote for Pound Puppies or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
He wrote for Dinky Dog. Or this is like he is the ultimate based rich kid who is just like, actually, all of that is bullshit, and I'm just going to like do the thing that I care about, and I'm going to waste the Harvard education that you got me, Mom and Dad.
I don't remember.
He was magna cum laude from Harvard.
I don't remember what Dill's education was, but he's also from a wealthy family. We were talking about how his family has the rights to the Buck Rogers franchise and stuff. So I wonder if they knew each other from school or from
that to me is like one is old money, one's new money.
Yeah.
So that might have even been a point of contention between the two. But the idea that like magna cum laude from Harvard writes for the Smurfs is just really fucking funny to me. And it's one of those things where I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about The Simpsons, and I was thinking about like, often you do when you look around and you're like, I'm unsatisfied. Things could have gone better.
Yeah.
I'm 37, and maybe I wish I didn't have to work a job where I spend the last 45 minutes washing dishes. I began to think about like other potential lives for myself, and I was like, okay, well, if I was going to like write comedy, and then I started to think about it more, and I was like, God damn it, I didn't go to Harvard, so I couldn't get a job in TV. You're just automatically you didn't go to a Ivy League school, then you're not good enough to write for a television show, apparently.
Right.
But like Douglas Allen Booth and the Flint Dills of the world, they are part of the little secret handshake club that says you are a high enough class of person that you can write Garbage Pail Kids, which is another one of Douglas Booth's
yes. I love how this joke can keep going because he wrote so many things with so many titles.
You could pull out the dumbest fucking cartoon like joke reference ever, and it's like, yes, not only did Douglas Allen Booth write for Heathcliff in 1984, he wrote for Heathcliff in 1986. Could not get on Garfield and Friends because Garfield and Friends, to my recollection, was written entirely by one guy.
The Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats, again, the most earworm theme song ever in existence. Did you listen to it since I talked about it last time?
Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats?
The theme song, yeah.
I didn't remember you met. No, I have not heard this theme song.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to this live on the air right now. Look, these episodes, we don't have a lot to say. Heathcliff and the... hold on.
Risking a copyright strike.
It's in my earbuds. I'm just going to...
Right.
Here we go. Oh, there's an ad.
Oh,
Jesus.
Oh, of course.
There we are. Jesus Christ. All right. Heathcliff, no one should terrify their neighborhood. I just paused it right there. I don't need to hear anymore. This is an 80s throwback to the 50s. This is like reheated... I don't know if Happy Days had a cartoon. I'd be shocked if it didn't.
It did.
I don't know what this is like.
But
this is probably one of the outtakes from the Happy Days cartoon theme song because it sounds like Sha Na Na is singing it.
The best part is that they go up an octave or two steps.
Jesus!
I shouldn't say an octave. They go up 2 steps at the end. And I said when we mentioned this before, I said that I've always imagined that hell is the Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats theme, and it just keeps going up 2 steps and it never stops every time it gets around. So it's just Heathcliff, no one should. Heathcliff, no one should. Heathcliff.
Yeah. That sounds nightmarish. I listened to I got about 6 seconds of Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats. I've had my fill. I don't need any more of this. I think Hell is just the Bonkers theme song as is.
Yeah.
I think Bonkers has maybe the worst theme song I've ever heard of a cartoon. And I don't think Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light has a particularly good theme song.
No.
Until Gabe redeemed it with his little metalcore version, that is. Okay. Anyway. Douglas Booth, when he isn't busy collecting taxes from all of the laborers on his land, he wrote The Price of Freedom.
Try reading from that book.
Shankar, Freeble, Macumba, Fable. What nonsense! If mouthing distasteful syllables is the prerequisite of this new age, then I want nothing of it!
It opens with Recon and Mortrid driving their whatever mobile through the jungle, and this is my promise to you, and I did sort of infer early on in this podcast that I was not going to remember any of these characters, and I have gotten to the point where I'm like pretty regularly just able to look at someone and know which character they are. But here is my promise to you. I am never going to remember these vehicle names. They're crappy vehicles. They look like toys. They look like junk. And every episode, the characters keep saying them by name, by full, so that when the kids are in KB Toys later, they'll be like, oh, that's the whatever. I'm just going to call them cars and planes. That's all I'm going to do. They're driving their car
I believe
through the jungle.
This one's called the Dagger Assault is the name of
Cool.
this thing.
That's stupid. While they're driving through the jungle, the most Jim Cummings-ass villager ever pops out of the bushes and asks for help. Jim Cummings, he does the voice of Witterquick on this show, but Witterquick is like a younger, more naive, sort of optimistic voice. He normally, like if you think Pete from Goof Troop, that's sort of the quintessential Jim Cummings. Basically, Pete from Goof Troop pops out of the jungle and begs them for help because he sees that they have technology, which no one has had for 3 years now. He says that his people in his village of Khmer are starving because they don't have technology. It's one of the old centers of tech, but now it's overrun with jungle, so it's another kind of cool, weird blend of fantasy, post-apocalypse setting that Visionaries does really well. And so we're sort of getting this vibe that, like, this magic that the Visionaries have been given, it's not just like so that they can have cooler superhero fights. It is like a genuine, it's like life or death for a lot of people, and it's a huge imbalance in power and wealth, basically. It is a thing where it's like the Visionaries should be just disseminating this to all people because they should be trying to, you know, restore society. It's like, what if only 14 people had access to electricity? That's literally what the plot of this show is. So Mordred doesn't want to stop because Mordred wants to get back to Darkstorm, who he's in love with, but Recon says, go ahead, direct us to the city. They go there, but they are spotted by Arzon, who is flying in his eagle form. Him and Feryl are just out and about. Feryl's like just napping on a cliff. I don't know what they're up to, but he warns Feryl, hey, Recon and Mordred were down there. We should follow them, see what they're up to. They get to the village, and Marna is there. She's one of the leads of this episode. She's a woman in a red bandana. She sounds like Adrienne Barbeau. Does Adrienne Barbeau wear a red bandana in Escape from New York? I have like a vision in my head of Adrienne Barbeau in a red bandana, and I can't remember where it's from.
Well, let's just say yes, because
it might be the convent for all I can recall. But at any rate, she sounds like Adrienne Barbeau.
She's got a cool leather jacket in the convent.
That's right. That's right. And there's another guy there. He's their sort of sacred leader. He's dressed like a South American revolutionary, but he has pointy facial hair, so you know that you can't quite trust him.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one thing about this episode is that back when we were first talking about it and you were making all those very funny comments about how they're all white, and I said I think there's one episode where characters are minority coded. This is the one I was talking about. I think that these villagers are vaguely, their skin tones aren't different, but what their facial hair and clothing makes me, they're like somewhere between Romani and like Mongolian. You know,
I mean, I think this episode is explicitly not necessarily like done so that the kids watching it know, but I think the people who wrote this episode, I think Harvard magna cum laude Douglas Booth was absolutely saying, okay, let's do an episode that is like a South American, Central American proxy war sort of a thing, where it's the American government on one side and the Soviet government on the other, and they're both sort of using these villagers as pawns against each other. I think that's kind of what is going on in this episode.
So that's why they're vaguely ethnically coded. And
right.
Just anyway, carry on.
I don't know. I don't know if their skin tones are any different, but
no,
you are
I don't
right
think
in that they are sort of.
Remember that's the
coded
excuse
to be,
is that it's so much cheaper to just make one skin tone with the paint, the cell paint. Remember that was the excuse I made up for them. So yeah.
So he has this like book, this sacred book that he's trying to read from, but it's got this weird foreign language and he's just getting frustrated. He throws it down. Marna suggests maybe this time they should try to find their own food if they're all starving, or hey, even possibly learn to farm. But one of the elders of the village dismisses that and says, Marna, this is the age of magic, not sweat. never have the Keramites demean their heritage by manual labor. I don't think any others wish to start now. And then the South American revolutionary pointy facial hair guy is like, Roan is correct, Marna. Only robot slaves do their own work. The only activity proper for a free citizen of Khmer is to command or die in the attempt. So we are getting this like picture of a village that's kind of like Wall-E, where they've been so reliant on automation and robots that they don't like know how to do anything at all, and they're kind of just dying because they're all useless. But in this case, it's not that they're like fat and lazy. I forget who directed Wall-E, but boy, that is a fat phobic movie.
Yeah.
In this case, they're too haughty. They perhaps are inspired by some of the other landed gentry that Douglas Booth ran into during his life. During family reunions, perhaps he met other members of British nobility and said, "Oh my God, these people are useless."
I mean, they are sort of starving to death. I found it really funny that they're literally praying for slaves, for robot slaves. And again, you said 3 years since the Age of Magic started. I was guessing it was between 2 and 10 years, but either way, anything longer. I
believe it is 3. It explicitly stated as 3 years in the first episode.
Okay, so yeah, sitting and praying for robot slaves to fix everything for 3 years is objectively very funny.
It's the other thing is like, it's not like, oh, our automatic irrigators are, it's like, no, slaves. We want slaves. They say the word slaves like 500 times in this episode.
Yeah.
I don't think kids' cartoons do this now. I think people are like a little more thoughtful about how they use a word like slave, and like realize that, when you are taking on the burden of like chattel slavery, like you are biting off more than you can chew in a Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light context. And so they will find other ways to basically talk about the same thing. Yeah. But in this show, it's just slaves. Where are we going to get some slaves? We need some slaves. Mortrin and Recon show up and they say, hey, we got tech. We'll share your tech, but only if you pledge your allegiance to Darkstorm. Or actually, Recon wants them to pledge their allegiance to him because he's not quite sold on Darkstorm. But Mortrid is there, and he's like, no. Darkstorm is our leader. They're going to be pledging their allegiance to Darkstorm. People of Khmer, obviously very proud, don't want to bow to them. But once they're promised slaves, then they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, we'll bow to Darkstorm. They fly off to talk to Darkstorm and bring him back and tell him what their whole little plan is. And that is when Arzon and Feryl see them. They go to investigate Khmer. Again, just a really cool looking backgrounds, like the idea of like industrial factory parks and stuff, but there's just like jungle vines and trees, and you just hear like all these sorts of jungle noises and stuff. It's a cool setting. But then the Recon spies on them investigating Khmer, and he tells the villagers that the Spectral Knights who showed up want to imprison them to hard labor. So they get into a fight. Arzon and Feryl flee. There's a chase scene. There's the jet. There's the car. At a certain point, Viralina shows up. I think I might have skipped a beat where Darkstorm comes back. I don't remember where Viralina got here.
She's got her own thing going on.
She does. She's very independent.
She was there just to laugh at these villagers, probably. She's kind of like
this episode in particular is an episode where Viralina sort of looks around and realizes that she's in a boys' club and there's like a really fucking hard glass ceiling for the Darkling Lords, and she's going to have to fight 5 times as hard as anyone else to get the same amount of respect, which I think is an interesting bit of characterization for a villain. There's a really bad joke and there's a couple good funny moments in this episode, but like this show has some of the worst fucking humor ever. And when I say that, I mean, I say that as someone who doesn't watch these kinds of shows, and I'm sure actually all these shows had terrible jokes. Yeah. But this is the thing. I've gotten on like this big animation kick, right? I'm like just sort of obsessed with it right now, but I avoided it for a long time, and I wouldn't even watch like the Pixar movies people said were great or whatever, because bad jokes just like physically hurt me, and I hate corny humor. Yeah. And most even good kids movies, it's like every 30 seconds you have to hear a bad joke. There's no way around it. The thing when people are like, oh, they put in jokes for the adults, those are called bad jokes. They're dumb. They're they're Shrek looking at the camera and saying, who let the dogs out? It's miserable. Yeah. So they shoot a missile And I think it's like Feryl who's like, oh, right. And then a missile comes back at them and he goes, oh, wrong. That's like meaningless. It's nothing. Anyway, hate that joke. I'm glad I dedicated 2.5 minutes to talk about how bad that one little tossed off joke was. They crash their car. They're about to get captured, but Arzon turns into an eagle to carry Feryl away. Kravex turns into the Thylot, the pterodactyl type magical creature that is his form, and knocks them both down. And Arzon and Feryl are captured. And Darkstorm pitches the villagers, says, you don't need technology, you don't need robot slaves. We have human slaves, and points to Arzon and Feryl. And everyone cheers, except for Marna. She's looking a little concerned. She's like, I don't know if human slaves are it, but okay. We now cut back to Cryotech guarding New Valeric. The villagers and Darkstorm have a new plan, and the plan is this. They're going to come to the gates. They say they're starving, and they need help. And Cryotech lets them in out of empathy because he's one of the good guys. They're already abandoning their high principles and ideals at this point. I think it's worth noting, like the villagers started off being like too proud to farm, and now they're like pretending to be refugees for food and shelter. Yeah. It's kind of a shameful plan. So you see already that striking this deal with Darkstorm is demeaning them further and further. Ektar tells Leoric that he's not sure if it's a good idea to let the villagers stay inside the city walls because they don't know anything about them. They don't know if they can trust him. But Galadria is really mad at him about that, and she says he's being cruel, and Leoric says that he agrees with Galadria and says, people of Khmer, know that you are welcome to the hospitality of New Valeric for as long as you may need it, because New Valeric is a sanctuary city. Good to know. However, it is a sanctuary city in an episode written by a baronet in Reagan's America, led by Flint Dill, who is a conservative himself. So in this case, it is a show about how the bleeding heart liberals are well-intentioned but misguided because charity is only going to get you into trouble. You should prioritize defense instead. These social programs of helping refugees, that's not where the money is going to go, and you're going to let in a lot of bad people, according to Visionaries.
It is
Knights of the Magical Light.
It is strikingly like it's not even subtext. It's just the text of the situation. Like this is what children are meant to learn from this episode.
Leoric is informed that Feryl and Arzon haven't come back yet. He says, they're probably out joyriding. Maybe that's what they were doing at the start of the episode.
Yeah, they're the only ones who can control a car, so I think, there's no TV or internet, and you have limited magic, so why not?
I was telling you this before we started recording, but I got into a really bad car accident 13 years ago, and it would sort of left me with some trauma, and I can't really drive anymore, or even being in cars, I'm kind of shaky. So I haven't operated a motor vehicle in 13 years, other than about 3 weeks ago, I tried one of those electric scooters that are littering every major city now. And it was the first time I had operated a motor vehicle in 13 years, and it was awesome. It felt so good. It was like, oh my God, I'm going so fast and I'm not putting an effort to propulse myself forward. This is incredible. And I'm sure that Feryl and Arzon, even after only 3 years of not having any technology, once they get their little car, they are just fucking doing donuts in the parking lot.
Yeah, they don't even have horses, come to think of it.
I don't know. Maybe, I don't think you see any horses on this show. There's a lot of
beasts
walking.
Of burden. There's beasts of burden, and and even then, the beasts of burden are often hamsters. So.
That's right. That's right. I think this is a flexible show. I think this is they've set themselves up a world where they have a lot of leeway to come up with outlandish kind of gags and visual ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to a beast of burden or something like that, it's going to be a machine operated by guinea pigs or something. Or what were what were the two
pigs.
Animals that were operating the two pigs?
The two
so
pigs
cute.
trying to eat corn. Yeah.
On that conveyor belt license plate factory on the last episode.
License plate for the place that has no cars.
Bizarre. Anyway, I guess Feryl, I think I took some wrong notes here because Feryl and Arzon have not been captured yet. They are free at this point. So I think I miswrote down.
Or you just confused the characters that got captured. Because
I think they were the only ones who were out, and everyone else is back at New Valeric. So I'm pretty sure that they just escaped, and I forgot to write down that part. Okay. At any rate, they're trying to get back, but the car, they crashed it in the chase, so it's been damaged. And Arzon says that his wing or arm is too injured to turn into an eagle and fly there to warn them. And so we're starting to see that he's sort of conflating his bodies. He's sort of seeing the eagle not as this like power that he can do, but like he is an eagle as well as a human.
Some potential for body horror there in our reboot that we keep talking about.
That's right. I do think we should have more of this animal mind invading the human mind and have people distrust their own instincts at a certain point. At some point, the villagers, it's late at night. They have, everyone's gone to bed. The villagers sneak and they try to jump Cryotech. And then this is my favorite line of the episode. Cryotech, as this bunch of villagers come running at him, yells, "Who goes there?" And then the one villager shouts, "Does it matter?" before hitting him in the head, which is classic. Like, I should say a one-liner, but I can't think of a one-liner in time. So I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to my mind, but I'm going to deliver it as if it's a one-liner. Does it matter? And then just smashes him in the head with a wooden baseball bat. It's a very funny response.
Yes.
The villager steals his staff. He tells the others to open the gate. The Darkling Lords start to sneak in. Everyone's sneaking into the knights' rooms. All the staffs are getting stolen. One of the villagers drops the staff and it wakes up Galadria. Now, Galadria, she's woken up out of bed. She's wearing a modest nightgown. The neckline is high. The hem is down to her ankles. But nonetheless, this is the only time that you see her out of her armor. And the character designers have given her absolutely insane curves. She's totally stacked. She's caked up. She has huge 80s hair. They are just like, don't forget, just because she looks like a linebacker most of the show, she's classically 80s babe. So she is the one who gets woken up. She springs into action. She wakes up everyone else. The knights put on their armor. Ektar gets jumped. He changes into wolf form. He dodges a net. There's more of a fight. Leoric hops on top of the plane that's flying around New Valeric, and he climbs on top, and he fights Darkstorm, and him and Darkstorm tumble out of the plane. Darkstorm lands in a moat's water. Later on in the show, we're going to find out that Darkstorm can't swim, but apparently they hadn't decided that yet, so him falling into the moat doesn't really affect anything. Leoric falls on top of one of the Darkling Lords who is fighting Ektar, and then we get another one of the like physically painful bits of humor where Leoric smashes this Darkling Lord and says, "Sorry to break up the party," and then Ektar goes, "No problem, drop in anytime." Just horrendous. Terrible.
Again,
fuck you, Douglas Booth.
I need to make it clear that when Patrick does these line reads, he's adding more character than most of the line reads tend to have.
I think that is the thing that makes these jokes especially bad, is because the deliveries are so flat across the board.
Especially the Spectral Knights. Like some of the Darkling Lords have some attitude, but yeah, they're just there's no tonal, there's no acting. It's very funny to me how flat it is.
None of these people have any sense of humor whatsoever. There's more fighting. Leoric and Ektar turning into their animal forms. Leoric getting his staff back. He summons the Voice of Wisdom. We've already established the Voice of Wisdom, not so helpful. The Voice of Wisdom says, "Comfort and wealth matter little if one is not free. Oh, and watch out behind you," which is a cute little joke. But the bit of wisdom, hypothetically, this is Leoric's staff. The staff should be giving him wisdom. That has no bearing on him at all.
No.
Comfort and wealth matter little if one is not free. That doesn't mean anything to Leoric. That means something to the villagers. Very stupid. After that, he gets the warning that something's behind him, but not quick enough. He gets conked on the head, and Darkstorm holds him hostage, says if the Spectral Knights don't give up their leader, he's going to kill Leoric. He informs them that they're going to be slaves to the people of Khmer. He dumps Leoric in the power sucker jail thing, and one of their cars has a jail that sucks up powers, the magic jail.
Dungeon, yeah.
Magical dungeon, stupid. It's not a dungeon. That's not what a dungeon is.
They actually have dungeons. They spend a lot of time in dungeons, actually.
Yeah, there's some really hot dungeon action in the next episode. But and they call this like little room that sucks up powers a dungeon. Spectral Knights get their totem sucked up again. Darkstorm announces a tournament to decide which Darkling Lords will get the Spectral Knight staffs. That to me is like the one good idea of this. Not the one good idea, but that's like the best idea of this episode is like, what if we had an episode where all of the bad guys had to fight each other and their antagonism and competitiveness like got to come out in this sort of tournament setting. Yeah, I will say like this is where I like these episodes. I like episode 4 and 5, but I was like really beaten down by the fact that every single episode up to this point, other than the first episode where it's just them going through all the trials in Iron Mountain, every single episode is just a numbers game. It's just there's 7 of us, there's 7 of them, but now 2 of them are off the board, which means it's 7 versus 5. Let's invade New Valeric.
Yeah.
It always happens that way. It's the only fucking plot that these writers can come up with is, well, it's 7v7, but now it's 7v4, so the 7 attack the 4. It happens in the next episode as well. It's really annoying.
It's to me that this episode is a good example of there's a good idea in here of this almost it's like a sort of H.G. Wells, maybe it's even Rod Serling-esque. Like it's a little bit of a Twilight Zone thing where there's this future place that cannot function without their robots, and that's a really good, like that's a good starting off point. But then they get these good ideas, and then but then they have to sell toys, and then they just sort of like turned it into a Mad Lib, like you're saying, like it's just the same action plot over and over again, built upon this genuinely interesting idea that I'm sure someone else has done. I'm sure that this isn't the first thing that ever had a society fall apart because they couldn't have robot slaves, but I mean, I guess that's what the Matrix is about, sort of.
Yeah, it's a common idea. I'm sure from the Industrial Revolution on, people have been looking at machines that make people's lives easier and go, maybe not. I don't know if the Luddites wrote any literature, but they might be the first to get there. So anyway, they're going to have this tournament. A villager wants to compete in the tournament. This is the Jim Cummings villager. Darkstorm says, "Yeah, fuck you. Just take the slaves. You're not a knight." So now we're seeing this dynamic about the proxy war. The villagers of Khmer are starting to realize that they are pawns and they're being used, and that this is not sort of an altruistic act on Darkstorm's part. There's a villager who gets rough with cryotech. Why did I write that down? That has nothing to do with anything. Cut this part out, Gabe.
Okay.
Gabe, later Gabe, editor Gabe, cut this part out. And then cut this part out too. And then cut that part out. But not this last part. And then cut that part out. So we now get a series of scenes about the Spectral Knights being forced to be the villagers' slaves. This to me is like, we should have gotten here earlier, and then this should have been more of the episode. We really just get like 3 scenes of this, but I really do like the idea of these like nobles, these chosen all-powerful warriors being brought down to size and being forced to actually serve people. And I think we could have gotten, like, it could have been more interesting if instead of just being enslaved by assholes, we revealed a little bit more about how the Spectral Knights are inherently selfish. I mean, this is a children's show from the 80s designed to sell toys. And it's also in Reagan's America by a right-wing guy who created it. So this is expecting too much to get this sort of anti-elite from all these Ivy League old money writers. But at any rate, like, there's a little bit of missed opportunity here because we just get these scenes of the knights having to be their servants. Marna gets she scolds Galadriel because Galadriel is really shit at sewing, and Marna's confused because she's like, "Oh, I just thought all slaves knew how to sew." She's used to just robots that can sew, and so she's not used to talking to humans. Cryotech offers to sew in Galadriel's place. He's much better at that sort of a thing. I like that. It's like a fun little reversal of gendered expectations, and it's also a slight bit of continuity in terms of the romantic potential of Cryotech and Galadriel, which we saw in episode 2.
Because that's objectively hot that the big tough man can do that.
Yeah, I think he's also like the oldest too. So he's like, he's kind of daddy as well. He's a big bear, but he's got gentle soul. So, it's okay. He's a catch. I don't blame Galadriel for being into cryotech. Galadriel informs Marna that the only reason the knights are cooperating is so Darkstorm won't hurt the people of New Valeric. Marna apologizes. This is like a new concept to her, the idea of altruism. She's going to let it percolate in her brain, and then she's going to eventually come to a conclusion in a day or two. We see Ektar being someone's servant, and he spills some water accidentally. The villager taunts that if he doesn't do a good job of his slaves, his people will suffer. So we're seeing some of the villagers are the nice slave owners, and some of the villagers are mean slave owners, which is like, that's not a thing. There are two of the knights. I think it's Leoric and Witterquick. I could be wrong. Witterquick doesn't get a lot to do in these episodes, so I sometimes forget he's there. They're moving furniture. The owner of the furniture can't make up his mind about where to place the chest of drawers, so it's like this goofy little bit where they're holding this heavy piece of furniture and they keep walking it back and forth.
Classic.
This is the point where I start to realize that 7 people kind of seems like an insufficient number of slaves for a whole village. But on the other hand, Dogville only had 1.
Yeah.
I think this is the Dogville episode of Visionaries. Did you ever see Dogville, Gabe?
Yeah, that's it. It's Dogville. Shit.
It's Dogville. Lars von Trier, big Visionaries fan. Arzon and Feryl are driving back. So wait a second. Now I'm like, I'm putting the pieces together, and I'm realizing that these villagers did not stay in. They didn't bring the slaves to Khmer. The villagers are moving into New Valeric because Arzon and Feryl show up.
Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's a lot easier to not have to make up new locations for your animation.
I guess it's
maybe they don't even have homes
things
anymore. I mean, maybe it's been 3 years of just praying for robot slaves and doing nothing else with their lives. Maybe they're like their houses were all robotic and just aren't livable anymore, so they have to also colonize.
This is a conversation
city.
that the Khmerites like kind of looked around that night that they got taken in under the guise of being refugees.
Yeah.
They were still looking around being like, this is way better than what we have.
Food. Oh my God. Water? Gee,
I think someone polished
water?
this silver. Yeah, water. So this is also one of those things where the implication in the first episode is that it's like there's an entire planet and there's lots of kingdoms, there's lots of nations, there's lots of knights who came to Iron Mountain, and it was only these 2 groups of knights that ultimately made it to the end. It became Visionaries, but like,
and they weren't originally all 2-sided. There was originally separate. Like, that's something I keep forgetting, is that they weren't originally the Spectral Knights. They're from different kingdoms, and they decided to center themselves on Leoric. And then as far as
Galadriel's city that she came from knows, like, she just died at Iron Mountain. She never went back. She was gonna go back, and then she got captured in episode 2, and now she's just sort of like, all right, well, I guess I live in New Valeric now. My point is, like, every episode is the exact same thing, which is like, there's only 5 Spectral Knights instead of 7. Let's invade New Valeric. If you are a citizen of New Valeric, that is just like a pain in the ass. It's just these superhero fights all the time.
Oh, I mean, it's the classic. It's like Superman. In Metropolis is a terrible place to live because buildings are falling down all the time.
Exactly. You're gonna, like, once an episode, Sindar is gonna summon his kaiju orc thing and knock over a bunch of towers, and you just gotta hope you're not in one of those towers.
Yeah.
And it's always the same little courtyard where they have the battles. So I like to think that there's like a good neighborhood of New Valeric that is like far away from that courtyard.
The suburbs are nice.
But property values are just shit near the castle.
Yeah.
It's like, you think it's good to live near the capital. It's bad. You don't want to live near the capital.
Yeah.
So anyway, Leoric looks out the window. He sees Arzon and Feryl driving into New Valeric. So he's like, all right, no more slaves. Let's warn them. Let's make our move now. Now's the time. There's 7 of us. It's a numbers game. And so they drop the chest. Arzon takes an eagle form to flee. Kravek starts shrieking like a maniac, as he likes to do. His line specifically is, "You shall not escape!" But Feryl jumps him and saves Arzon. So now Feryl's been captured too. It's Arzon sort of on his own. Darkstorm informs all the captured knights that if Arzon doesn't give himself up, they'll all be sent to the Fenendium mines to work until they drop. And then another Darkling Lord says, those mines were deadly for robots. I wonder how humans will fare. Marna is skeptical that anyone, like, she's looking at this whole situation and she's saying, well, Arzon is not going to give himself up to save the others. Arzon is going to look out for himself. But Arzon immediately does give himself up. Darkstorm says Spectral Knights are so predictable, which is the same energy as the end of the first episode where he goes, it's so much easier to be evil. So now that all the knights have been captured, the tournament can begin. Just make the whole episode about the tournament. At this point, I do not care about Marna. I do not care about any of the Spectral Knights. I just want to watch these assholes fight each other.
Yeah, like the episode where they have the big dinner fight is like one of the funniest things in the whole show. When Kravex is just beating the shit out of everybody because he's in a bad mood and they're throwing chairs.
I mean, this is a good idea by Darkstorm. As a leader, he has to understand that like his staff has this energy and they have to get this energy out in productive ways.
Yeah.
So making them compete against each other is like, and it's also a good way of keeping them fighting each other and not turning to him and going, why are we listening to this asshole?
Yeah.
So good move by Darkstorm. You notice he is not part of this tournament. He is above it. But Marna, she's finally putting 2 and 2 together, and she's going like, oh, you can do things for others. You don't have to just be a selfish asshole all the time. So, and she also apparently was there when the Wisdom staff did its little words about freedom and slavery and luxury and whatever that line was.
Yeah.
So she's like, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice myself and I'm going to take a risk and just give you the key and let you out. And whatever consequences that brings, that's fine.
Do you think, I didn't think of this until right now. Do you think that was meant to be the twist there is that Wisdom was actually talking to her and not Leoric? And that's just wasn't
No,
clear?
because he ends it with, oh, and look out behind you.
Okay.
Which implies that the first statement is also to Leoric.
Okay.
I think it's just she was... I mean, the Wisdom is a plot fixer, but in the world of Visionaries, I think Wisdom is just sort of like, I am going to say the thing that fulfills the prophecy that makes the thing happen.
Yeah, that would be easy
so,
for our remake. That'd be an easy thing is to have someone say, oh, Wisdom was talking to her and not me. Like that's a half decent
well, the way
twist.
the remake will go is that Wisdom says something in the early of the season, and it only pays off at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's way
in
better.
a way, and because what you want is the audience to speculate. It's like, oh, but Wisdom said something about the 3 red dwarves, and it's like maybe 3 red dwarves is actually those stars up there. I don't know.
You know, like
you can do something like that.
Yeah, the mystery box. The M. Night Shyamalan.
You got a mystery box. The people expect it. They want the mystery box. So we get to see a little bit of the tournament. Virulina versus Lexor. Lexor is characterized by being a coward. Virulina is characterized by being extremely hungry for power within this dynamic. So she is kicking Lexor's ass. He runs away. He turns into an armadillo and trips her, but she grabs him by the tail and begins to spin him around above her head. Again, I continue to be wrong about their only letting the girls fight the girls. I do continue to be impressed by the way that the women in this show are characterized, despite the fact that they're not getting plots about them.
And they don't get any toys, and they don't get any vehicles, and they don't get any staffs.
Right. So it's like... It is a low bar that it is clearing, but it is clearing the bar nonetheless. Again, the one-on-one, hand-to-hand fights on the show, not as good as the larger scale stuff, but it is fun, at least that it has character bits to it. The Jim Cummings villager, he's pissed that he's not allowed to compete in this tournament, so he sees the Spectral Knights escaping, and he goes, oh, I'm going to warn Darkstorm, and then Darkstorm will be so pleased with me that he'll make me a knight. But Marna says, no, we have to be altruistic. And he puzzles on that a bit and he goes, okay. So he just, we got to wrap up the episode at this point. So there's not a lot of more character beats for these villagers. It's just sort of like, nah, that's not going to happen. And then he goes, oh yeah, I guess that's not going to happen. Mordred sheepishly asks, maybe, possibly, Master, may I be allowed to compete in the tournament? And Darkstorm goes, oh yeah, absolutely. And he throws him to the utterly unhinged Kravex. We already seen that Kravex can punch out a room full of villains. Mordred immediately takes bug form and he has to dodge Kravex stomping. The knights, while Kravex is trying to stomp this bug, sneak over to their magic prison car. They get their totems back. Kravex tackles Mordred. He spins him around, and then he throws him again against the magic jail car thing. This is where the Darkling Lords notice that the knights have escaped. The knights use this moment to pop out and attack, and Cryotech picks up Mordred and throws him back into Darkstorm's lap. I think this is now every episode has a scene where Mordred gets thrown. Yeah, this is a good running gag. I like Mordred as he as just like sack of laundry is like how he is characterized as a fighter. And he lands in Darkstorm's lap and is like, "Forgive me, Lord," which is like a very cute gay beat there. This is I will keep an eye on this. I will hope that maybe their gay dynamic escalates and Darkstorm gives in eventually and they love each other, but in a like vicious, snippy gay Queens kind of a way. We'll find out. In this case, I do think that there is intentional gay subtext, but it is gay subtext in that it's like, look at this silly, loathsome person who's not meant to be taken seriously. They're kind of gay.
Yeah, it's not.
This is not how our reboot.
This is not a positive stereotype.
Though I will say, because it's 2025 now, I feel comfortable in saying like we can have gay characters who are shitty and we make fun of, and it's not because we're just going to have more. It's just going to be queerer. It's just going to be like Galadriel has an ex-girlfriend. We're going to give Witterquick an ex-boyfriend, and then we have enough queer representation that we can still have shitty sniveling gay guy. We don't have to make every LGBTQ person like impossibly good-natured and perfect because they're like noble victims or whatever, which is an annoying thing that happens sometimes. Or a cop is the other thing. It's sort of like, oh yeah, they're gay, but they're a cop. And isn't that an interesting dynamic? And it's like, no, it's not. So Cryotech, after throwing Mordred, he just starts cleaning house. He's punching out everybody. Lexor and Sindar run away. Sindar tries to go for Cryotech's power staff, but the Jim Cummings villager heroically leaps to grab it first. He gets punched in the head by Sindar's gorilla form for his troubles, and then he says, and I've been complaining about the jokes on this episode. This is the worst one. This is the one that made me like I paused it and I just walked out of the room and got myself a drink of water because I was just like, I can't with this fucking show right now. He gets punched in the head and then he goes, "That monkey packs a punch." That's not a joke. You just said the thing that happened. That's what happened. He punched you. That monkey packs a punch. The monkey punch it. It's so fucking horrible. That monkey packs a punch. It's just like, it is garbage. This is, I think, ultimately why America sucks, is because as children we are exposed to media that is this bad that it shrinks our brains a little bit.
Well, what would the good joke be that he kills him and then feels bad about it because he punched him in his ape form because he likes cute little animals? Like, that
would be a lot funnier if Jim Cummings just like head trauma dead. And Sindar, and then Sindar's like carrying around his corpse because Sindar doesn't understand he's dead. He thinks he's just asleep. Like, the more we make Sindar Lenny from Of Mice and Men, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe instead of punching him, he tries to pet the villager and just snaps his neck.
I like him carrying him around. I've heard he is injured. What do we do? Yeah.
We have shifted from a teen-oriented revival thing that like captures the energy but then updates it, and we've turned it into mid-aughts Adult Swim Hanna-Barbera thing.
Yeah.
This is more Harvey Birdman than
just
our previous
this episode.
Reboot pitches.
Just for this one. Like,
fair enough.
We'll go back.
So Sindar tries to use his destruction power to make a tower crumble and fall on the knights. Cryotech counters by using his archer power. The archer fires an arrow that disintegrates the falling tower into dust. Darkstorm tries to attack, but one of the knights just drives his car into him. Like, you just get fucking wrecked by a car. Kravex takes his sphere spider form, but the pointy facial hair villager, the revolutionary guy, he jumps to take the bite instead of Cryotech. So we see that the villagers are sort of they're atoning for their sins by putting themselves in the line of fire. He gets bitten, and then Leoric thanks him, but before the villager can reply, the fear kicks in. When I say the fear, I mean full-blown William S. Burroughs Naked Lunch, junk-sick fear. This is the best animation of the episode. It zooms into his eyeball and then zooms out again, and he is in this like fantasy realm where he is surrounded by his former giant robot slaves. They have these like crazy electro claws. And they're all just like shouting at him, and he's going, my slaves, what is wrong? I order you to get back. And they all say to him,
we have done your work long enough.
Now you will do ours.
You miserable squirming slave.
It's awesome. And it's like, it is just one of those things where it's like the camera is kind of moving and the perspective is off in a fucked up, surreal way. This is the part where you're like, yeah, that's right. TMS. He-Man couldn't. Filmation could never do this fucking drug trip freak out.
And they're it's also crazy that they designed these cool robots for just this shot. We never see them again. We never saw them before.
It's true.
They don't
We didn't see any
reuse them.
flashbacks. We never saw the like discarded, non-functional robots in like a pile in an earlier scene or anything like that. It's only for this scene, so they get to be designed for maximum freak out potential.
Well,
now we get into some. Go ahead.
What I like about this is that the writers kind of mess up the order of things, and the guy sacrifices himself, but it seems that he still hasn't learned his lesson until after the bite. And so I think it's interesting in a way that I think they made a mistake by having him. He should have gotten bitten by accident and then sacrificed himself, because now he understands. So the fear, like, I wanted them to hammer home the idea that the fear has actually been the thing that changed this guy's opinion of stuff. He's not like the woman who is steadily learning that slavery is wrong. I wanted the idea of this guy being scared into slavery being wrong and then becoming altruistic. That was
sure.
I feel like that was just a mistake. I don't think that was like necessarily like their plan. I feel like they just sort of, it's something about the way cartoons are made. Things just got out of order.
On the other hand, when Galadriel got the fear, we saw this sort of like unearthed trauma of like the world coming to an end. So maybe this is what the fear gets you in like a subconscious level. And this is less about him learning a lesson than it is about him being tortured by his own guilt.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I accept that. I retract my previous statement.
That's the way I read it, at least.
Yeah.
We get some really good action at this point, because now we are getting outside of hand-to-hand combat and getting into like the 7v7 large-scale powers and vehicles sort of a thing. Recapping this is a little tedious because it's just they flee in their vehicles. The knights pursue. They shoot lasers at each other. There's explosions. Boom, boom, pew, pew. Gravex is blasting his way through a group of people. There's a laser blast that knocks out a tower. It's just like, it looks cool. It's good animation. It's anime as fuck. It works. Virulina has to be the one to remind Lexor, like, hey, this tower's about to fall on us. Use your shield power. And again, hammering home, she should be the one with the staff. The fact that Lexor, the most useless Darkling Lord, has a staff and she doesn't, she deserves it. She has more of a strategic mind for like how to employ these powers. Now, pointy facial hair revolutionary, like all good acid droppers. After his trip, he then consults his psychologist, Marna, and the Knights, and he says, you know what? I kind of realize what my subconscious is trying to tell me. He realizes that an over-reliance on robot slaves, in fact, enslaved the people of Khmer, and he renounces slavery forever. Jim Cummings, villager, decides that he's going to stay in New Valeric to help fix what he break, and then maybe one day he'll get to become a knight. I don't think he comes back on the show, but it's the sort of thing that they could have brought back. They're setting up little crumbs. It's like that wizard from episode 3 that hasn't come back yet, but we know that the Darkling Lords have him in jail and can bring him out for a plot when we need to. So you get the feeling that this is a show where the people who are running it are invested in trying to like build out a world and a continuity and a sense of momentum and that sort of thing, which is more than you get for some other shows, and it is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then it ends the way so many of these episodes ends. They all shout their stupid catchphrase, "May the light shine forever." That's episode 4.
I just want to say,
ahead.
I have the notes, episode 4, after watching the first 3, which I believe were intended as a sort of movie pilot. There is some, other than the thing you were mentioning, the freak out, there's some particularly bad animation in this one. I noticed that there's very obvious things that they do when they run out of money, where they'll just use fewer frames to do stuff. The walk cycles are actually really funny in this episode because they don't do
I noticed that as well. There's a specific scene with Asdor and Feryl walking like that is just, they look so goofy.
Yeah, and there's lots of close-ups of faces talking, so you only have to do a mouth. But the part that made me laugh was there's a part where Feryl and Arzon are running away from the slavers, and Feryl turns into a fox to run faster, and I feel like they didn't have the animation budget to turn Arzon into I can't remember, is Arzon's the
Eagle?
Eagle. They didn't have the animation budget to turn him into Eagle, so he just runs faster and he matches pace with the fox. So there was like, it just feels like a waste. Like, I don't know. It was just really funny to me. Like, okay, he's a fox and now he's a man. And like, oh, I guess being a fox isn't that good because that man can totally just keep up with that fox.
There is a beat on episode 5 that is, I think, the worst animation out of these 2 episodes, but I think it's just an example of the people who wrote this script and storyboarded it being too ambitious for their show, and TMS being like, look, what you want us to do is actually extremely detailed and complicated, and it takes up 3 seconds of screen time. We're just going to kind of fake it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to, I'll mention that when we get there.
We can move on. I think that, the next episode, Feryl Steps Out, is one of the least interesting.
There's not a lot to talk about in this one. Feryl Steps Out.
Darkstorm sealed off the drain pipe. How good are you at finding alternate escape routes? No complaints yet.
We hear peaceful medieval music as we follow a pirate ship and a captain looking out of nearby village with a telescope. And we're seeing these tranquil pastoral village scenes. But then the pirate ship drops the mainsail and there's skull and crossbones. And then we see the ship crest over a heel, and it reveals that it is not a pirate ship on like a nearby ocean beach or something like that. It is just a big pirate ship on wheels. Mm-hmm. Which means in a world without engines, this is just a pirate ship that they set up on top of a hill and aimed at the village and then pushed down. Which means this group of pirates are just Jackass. The show Jackass, if Jackass was a gang, they would be these pirates.
Do you think this was, you might have been planning on going into this, but this was another new writer. And I wonder if it wasn't made clear to him that there is no technology when he wrote the rolling pirate, the land pirate part, and nobody felt like correcting him.
I mean, I think this is just like, again, it's a whimsical show. We have technology, we have sci-fi, we have fantasy, we have wizard painted on the side of the van, we have robots, we have techno dragons, and I think introducing pirates to that as well is just
it's awesome. Don't get me wrong.
It's really good.
I would love more land pirates. And I love that the reveal that we don't just have Darkling Lords as villains. This is a whole planet. This planet, even nearby to where most of the story is taking place, has completely different villains that are just ransacking the countryside. I love that.
They tear through the village. They drop anchor, which is, again, very funny. They hop out. They're causing mayhem. One of them picks up a lamb. 3 townswomen start to hit him. I do think that they are trying to, like, what did Vikings and pirates do? Okay, let's take out the sexual assault part.
Right.
Let's change the dynamic so we have these 3 women hitting the pirate rather than a pirate picking up a woman and putting it over his shoulder. The captain is taunting them, but he gets blasted by a laser. A laser? There's no technology in this world. Yes, there is. It's the Spectral Knights, and they're coming over the hill in their car. And they say,
this is it. I know what you're going to say.
There's a couple lines in this episode that are bad jokes that go all the way around into feeling like they come from the Tick.
Yes.
Like they're like,
yes, I know exactly the line.
It feels intentionally bad. Leoric says, "We have a special on manners today. All you can eat."
I loved it. I wrote, that's one of the few quotes I've written down here. And as soon as you started, I'm like, oh, he liked that quote too. It was the best fucking quote.
We have a special on manners today. All you can eat. And it's one of those things where it's like, this is a show that has a lot of bad writing. Is this an example of the show's bad writing? Or is this intentionally stupid dialogue because they're going for a sort of more whimsical, again, like irreverent Tick kind of vibe? I think some of the later episodes do get like more specifically irreverent and cartoonish in a way that early episodes of the show are stiff. So this might be a little bit of that personality coming through, and it's intentionally silly. Either way, we have a special on manners today. All you can eat. Very funny line. Feryl, again, he just aims his car at a crowd of pirates. There's no arrest. There's no trial. He's just going to run them over. They scatter. He crashes into a well. So Feryl just crashing the car left and right on this show. And then they all jump him and start wailing on him. The animation at this part of the episode is awesome. This whole fight scene is really funny. Leoric is facing the captain. He says, "You don't know when to quit." That's another one of those things where I'm just like, that is a line that holds no content whatsoever. Even if you are a 4-year-old, like, a hero saying you don't know when to quit is a meaningless thing, and anything else would be better. I should stop harping on this because it's like I'm the one who decided to do a podcast about an 80s cartoon. Shame on me, really, but nonetheless, it does hurt me. The captain draws his sword, but Leoric turns into a lion and pounces him. He throws the captain far away, and all the other pirates get scared, so they run away from Feryl. They're trying to get away, so Leoric hops into his little doodle pod thing. What's the name of this thing? That's like attached to their car.
It's called the Capture Chariot. I'm sorry, Capture Chariot.
I think that's the car. And then what's the little
the little blip? Capture Chariot. Blah blah blah. Has two.
In all my notes, I call it a doodle pod, which I think is just me again hating the vehicles and making fun of them.
The vehicle.
At any rate,
I don't think they give him a name according to this.
It's a little detachable one-man kind of flying.
There are two of them, actually.
It's like a flying saucer.
Yeah.
He blasts the pirate ship with lasers and blows it up. All the pirates flee, and then they just run away. So I guess the idea is that Leoric's like, well, you don't have a ship anymore, so you're harmless now. But there's no idea. It's like the exchange was, they're getting away. I'll stop them, and then he doesn't stop them. They get away. They don't have a lot of prison space. They're not jailers. They do not have a adequate justice system. They have not gotten to this part of rebuilding society. The worst they can do is sort of spank evildoers and let them go. Feryl watches the townspeople fawn over Leoric and how heroic he is, and he gets depressed. We jump back to New Valeric. Feryl is leaving the Spectral Knights because he feels inadequate. Galadriel and Arzon are trying to talk him out of it, but he hops in his car and leaves. He's the moody teenager who hops in his hot rod, drives away. He's going to do donuts in the parking lot. But there is a woman out there who's spying. I thought it was Viralina, but we see a later scene that it's not Viralina. It's just some lady. She runs to Darkstorm. She says one of the Spectral Knights quit. Darkstorm's like, oh, I know how this goes. This is a numbers game. It's now 7v6, but it might be able to be 8v6 if we talk him into joining our side.
Yeah.
So we now cut to a pub called the Sign of the Ram. The name of the pub, at the outside, you would think like, oh, this is like classic British pub. Inside, it is a saloon. So we're getting a little bit of Wild West in with our pirates and our sci-fi and our fantasy. You can do any fucking thing on this show. It's very fun.
And so yeah, we have the countryside with your 17th century kind of English stuff. You have Wild West town. That was what I think I mentioned this in an early episode. There's a sort of Westworld idea here where in the post-apocalypse you've started towns that have their own themes, and so there's probably like a samurai town somewhere that they can.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would definitely start like a town that is like Universal horror or just like old monster movie town.
Yeah.
That would be my move. That's the post-apocalyptic village I want to live in. And inside we get another just like quick little bit of like, God damn, these Spectral Knights, they're elites. They're elitists. They're kind of assholes. But this is an episode that knows it. I do not think that Buzz Dixon was a baronet, so I think he maybe has a more of a touch.
He's
of
more
the
down
working
to
man.
earth. Yeah.
Because we see that the owner of this bar, exactly. So because we see that the owner of this bar has already stacked the chairs, and he is just begging Feryl to leave. He does not have magical powers, so he can't physically remove him from his bar. But he's just like, we got to call it a night, dude. I know you're having troubles, but like, I got to get up in the morning. Come on, man. And Feryl, totally oblivious, goes, it's true. I am tired, but I am the kind who never knows sleep. And that's like the last thing you want to fucking hear in the food service industry. This is the part when I was first watching the show that I was like, oh, the Spectral Knights can be kind of dicks. This is interesting. Darkstorm and Mordred show up in the bar. Darkstorm says he can make it worth his while to become a Darkling Lord. Feryl is really enraged by the suggestion that he would ever betray Leoric. He's like, is that what people think of me? Not just that I'm pathetic, but that I'd be a turncoat? Fuck you. He escalates things. He kicks the table over onto him. There's some good animation in this little fight scene with his feet on the table legs and the Lord's getting pushed and flying towards the camera. We hear the owner of the bar go, "Oh no, not again," which means like this is a rough town. There's a lot of fights over here at the Sign of the Ram. They fight. Darkstorm tries to make him old with his old powers. One of his special powers is the beach from old. So he tries to do that, but Feryl dodges it. He turns into a wolf. He runs. He hops into his car. He fires lasers at the Lord, so they run to their plane, and they escape. Feryl starts to mutter to himself that he's a man of honor. And the owner of the bar is like, hey, I'm happy to hear that, because a man of honor pays his bills. We're getting a little bit of Moe from The Simpsons on that line. You have to imagine that in addition to the 15 pints that Feryl drank over the course of the night, Feryl now also has to pay for the bar that he fucking wrecked. But there is a grimace that Feryl gives the bartender that Feryl's like, how dare you? How dare you bring up money to me right now? I'm in my feelings, okay? I am a moody teenager, and you talk to me about your precious bar that I wrecked, and then I drank, and I made you stay up late because you're afraid that I'm going to use my capacity for violence against you. How dare you, sir? It's like, no, this bartender's having a fucking horrible night.
Yeah.
I like that. It's very funny. So Darkstorm and Mordred are flying away. Darkstorm tells Mordred, take me to Kravex. Outside of New Valyric, Kravex and Darkstorm are plotting on how to use Kravex's fear power to scare Leoric into thinking that Feryl is in trouble. So Kravex takes the little form of a spider crawling up the wall, and it uses its legs like a glass cutter to sneak inside of Leoric's room like a cat burglar. And we see that Leoric's having a nightmare where Feryl is suspended over a watery chamber with crocodiles leaping up to bite at him. So we're getting more of... how Kravex is actually the best Darkling Lord. He's clearly the most useful, most competent. I do like a lot of the animation of the little spider crawling up the side of the castle. We get a nice long shot where you just see this tiny little spider crawling up the castle. That's cool. Leoric wakes up. He's very scared. I already talked about the last episode, Galadriel and her nightgown. They wanted to show off all the curves. But guess what? Leoric's a slut too, because he's got this scoop neck tee, and he is so fucking buff. It is this is an episode that is horny for Leoric. We're going to get hornier later, but we've already set up, by the way, this dude's got body. This is one of those things. People will talk about Batman the Animated Series, and they'll be like, oh yeah, Bruce Timm, he's a pervert. He has all these sexy cheesecake drawings of Harley Quinn or whatever. It's like, if you watch Batman the Animated Series, there is one body that show is obsessed with. It is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Every episode has him with his shirt off working out.
Yeah.
And he is just built like a refrigerator. It's incredible. Anyway, sexy Leoric leaps out of bed. He's convinced that Feryl's been kidnapped, so he suits off. He rides off into the storm. And again, we have... a knight's been captured. I have to save them. Now that we've manipulated you into being out, we have the numbers game, and it's now 7 versus 5. Or it's very tedious, this plot. So Leoric is running to save who he thinks is Feryl hanging from a tree, but it's actually Virulina disguised as Feryl, and she kicks Leoric. Again, she's the shark, so of course she is always doing disguises.
Yeah, this is the second really good disguise she does. She should have been the fucking chameleon.
Merklin is not paying that close attention.
No, he was
Merklin has other stuff on his mind.
Yeah, he was on the phone the whole time. He glanced up every once in a while and saw one thing happen.
The implication you get from the first show is Merklin is this all-knowing sage who is going to guide their destinies. But as the show goes on, you realize that Merklin is kind of selfish and is not particularly interested in them as people. So maybe it's no surprise that Virulina gets the shark instead of the chameleon. Yeah. At any rate, all of the Darkling Lords try to jump him. He starts breaking out a whip. He's laying everybody out. Someone shouts out, that wasn't supposed to happen. And Leoric, I think, is the one who replies, a lot of things aren't supposed to happen. Which is another, that's a one-liner from The Tick.
Yeah.
That's a thing that, delivered with confidence, sounds like it's a response, but it means nothing. Darkstorm turns into a mollusk. Leoric turns into a lion, but then Kravex turns into a phylat. He scoops the lion away from the mollusk. I feel like they don't draw the phylat the same way every time. Mm-hmm. I remember in the first episode, the phylat being kind of weird and spindly, and I feel like it's gotten beefed up and a little more menacing.
Well, maybe that's another thing. Maybe their attitudes, who they are as people, their personalities change their creatures. Maybe that was something they were going to do that's something for our remake, obviously.
Yeah. But I think that's a good idea, especially when you have something like the mollusk, which has there's so much wiggle room there as to what's a mollusk.
Yeah.
We could have Darkstorm turning into different mollusks at different points.
Yeah.
So they drop him in the fucking magic car prison again. It sucks up his powers again. Darkstorm taunts him again.
Is that 4 in a row? 4 episodes in a row where...
4 episodes in a row that is about the numbers game, that is about scooping up the Spectral Knights and putting them in the magic car prison that sucks up their powers.
Magic car prison.
Very weird. It is what it is. It's a magic car prison, and they call it a magic dungeon, and it's not a dungeon. It's a tiny box. That's not what a dungeon is.
It's a trunk. They toss him in the trunk.
Exactly. They toss him in the magic car trunk and they suck up his powers. Feryl, meanwhile, he's starting to sober up. He detects that Darkling Lords are nearby, so he hides in the bushes as they pass, and he sees they have Leoric. He springs into action. He jumps into his little doodle pod. He flies after them. He jumps off of the doodle pod. He lands on the back of their car. He's doing Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Some very good animation here. He overhears Virolina and Darkstorm having a conversation about capturing Leoric, and he's like, "Oh my God, Leoric got captured on my behalf. I'm so fucking useless." He's beating himself up even more over it. He jumps off the back of the car. He decides he has to save Leoric. He has to set this right. We go back to Darkstorm's castle. Leoric is bound to the dungeon wall with a rope and a chain, and he is like on the rack. He's spread eagle against the wall, and I before was like watching Leoric in his little scoop neck tee, and I'm like, that's the sluttiest Leoric? No. Daddy tied up in the dungeon. This is the sluttiest Leoric. This is an episode that is horny for Leoric.
To remind people that Leoric is the one with a mustache. You know,
that's right. He has the gay mustache. Yeah. This is the 80s. This is the era of children's cartoons where all of the men are macho in a way that feels like gender play and it feels queer.
What is it called? Tom from Finland? Oh, crap.
Tom of Finland. Yeah.
He is the Tom of Finland. He just needs the hat.
Heavy Tom of Finland. Darkstorm goes, now that Leoric and Feryl out of the picture, it's the perfect time to attack New Valeric again. Feryl is outside of the Darkstorm castle. He sees a moat that's covered in crocodiles, so we're starting to see that Leoric's dream is coming true, but it comes true in a different way because rather than Feryl being helpless against crocodiles, he turns into a wolf and runs across their heads. And this is the part I was referencing earlier where I think they just wrote in the script and storyboard and goes, yeah, and he just sort of hops from head to head like you do in Pitfall or something because, you know, it's the age of Atari. They've all played Pitfall. And I think when it gets to TMS in Japan, TMS is like, you don't understand what it is like for a wolf to hop on the head of one crocodile and then it like agitates the water. It would splash it. They would snap up at him. This is a very expensive 4-second animation you want us to do. So instead, they just draw a wolf running across a drawing of a moat with alligators. It's like, if this was DuckTales, you would get the full, beautiful Disney animation thing. It would be very cartoonish and cool. Here, it is just like, what if a wolf ran across our drawing of a moat? You know what? You gotta cut corners sometimes. So he makes it to the castle through the sewer grate. Darkstorm is now telling the Darkling Lords his plan. I don't know why he has to tell them this. It's the same plan as they have every time. Lexor, the coward, wants more reassurance that the plan will work, which is fair because it's never worked before. Virolina suggests that they use the Power Staff of Wisdom. The Power Staff of Wisdom decides to say that tonight a great many warriors shall taste their defeat. They should not stop trying to steal Leoric's power staff. Give that one to Virolina. You're a misogynist. You don't think the women count. Give her the wisdom power staff. It doesn't help. Darkstorm tells Mordred, you know what? Check up on Leoric. These people, they have a way of escaping. Feryl sneaks into Leoric's dungeon. He apologizes to Leoric. He starts to untie him, but Mordred stumbles upon the two of them. He jumps in before Leoric is fully tied. He and Feryl have a knife fight that turns into a brawl. Mostly the one-on-one fights on the show, not very good. This is a really cool fight. It's very well choreographed. Mordred's scythe gets stuck in some stalks. He gets punched in the face. He stumbles against a wall. He grabs the nearby coffin. He just chucks a coffin at Feryl. The coffin shatters. They take their animal forms and start fighting, but Feryl, the wolf, catches the bug. Again, Mordred, your bug animal form, not too helpful. He backs against the wall, and he pulls an alarm. But what this alarm is... This is again like when you're talking about this is a toy commercial. They are trying to sell you toys. Eventually, they were going to make this castle playset, and it has all this fucking weird bullshit that makes no sense except as a toy. The alarm is a giant metal tongue that is hanging out of a bat sculpture, and when you pull the tongue, it activates a device that rings giant bells.
That would
Who built this castle? It's incredible. It's really cool. So anyway. He goes, I just summon all the Darkling Lords, but then he gets chucked into the ropes and chains. Once again, we have an episode where Mordred gets thrown. They pull a lever that the Darkling Lords will pull a lever that releases a bunch of boulders, and the boulders sort of go through a Marble Madness series of tubes that eventually bounce down a hallway. Again, very toy feeling to this whole location. It's also kind of a little bit like, I don't know, Gabe, do you ever play any of the Dark Souls games?
I tried, and I'm not good, but I did play Bloodborne, actually. No, I didn't play. I guess I played Bloodborne, not Dark Souls, now that I think about it.
Yeah, that's close enough. There's some locations in these games that have like obstacles and stuff that you're like, people live here? Like, why the fuck? Like, why does this castle just have a bridge with 15 swinging blades?
Or
what is,
the
what is this?
Castlevania. That's the Castlevania thing. Those
Yeah.
like old original side-scrolling Castlevanias where like this is someone's castle, but it is functionless.
I do think that the people who made this show, whether in Japan or America, probably both, I think you get little glimpses where you're like, these people played video games, which was not a given in the 80s. But like,
and
there
Dill wrote video games as games got more narratively complex, and he wrote stuff with Gary Gygax and Dungeons and Dragons. So I even if Buzz Dixon wasn't, we know Dill was. I mean, there's a sort of video game-ness about a lot of the episodes where they have to just do a fetch quest for Merklin. Very video gamey.
Yeah, and of course these are sorts of things where it's like the Japanese RPG is inspired by the PC RPG of America, and those games are all trying to be Dungeons and Dragons. So there's a lot, like where the inspiration comes from, it's a little messy, but nonetheless, a lot of this feels like video games, and these bouncing boulders are very video games. The boulders seal off their drain pipe exit. Another line that sounds like it comes from the Tick. Lyric goes, "How good are you at finding alternate escape routes?" And Feryl goes, "No complaints yet." What? Yeah,
maybe that's Buzz Dixon's.
Finding alternate escape routes is like such a funny, specific, clunky thing to respond. No complaints yet.
Maybe
again,
that is
very Tick.
That is, but maybe that's. I'm gonna have to look it up now. I wrote some of the things. I wrote that Buzz Dixon. He was a uncredited rewrites in the G.I. Joe movie, which is a really weird movie that I used to watch in reruns on cable. I never really watched the G.I. Joe show, but I watched the movie several times, and I honestly recommend it because it's so weird. But he also, the one thing I wrote down is that he wrote the episode of Batman the Animated Series called Cat Scratch Fever, in which Catwoman uncovers the plot to infect stray animals in Gotham and have them kill people, which is a pretty extreme thing, but I'm wondering if he wrote for the Tick now, and so I'm going to try to find Buzz Dixon.
I just did a quick check. It doesn't look like he did. He did do like Tiny Toons. He did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which has a little bit. I guess Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the humor gets broader and dumber as the show goes on.
Right.
But this sort of thing, Conan the Adventurer, My Little Pony, Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa. That could be the kind of show that would have a referent joke like that.
I tried to watch that once, and it's trying to be that.
So Darkstorm tells Sindar to kill Leoric, but only notices it's Mordred, not Leoric, tied up in chains, just in time to stop him. Darkstorm we get this little thing of Darkstorm discovering Mordred all bound and tied up. We're furthering the gay romance between the two. Darkstorm sends him off to look for the two. Kravix and Lexor just start breaking everything in the castle in the off chance that they're hiding inside. And this includes glass cases that you can see through and flat paintings against the wall.
They're just breaking his stuff. They're totally doing it on purpose. It's actually a really funny joke. I think that's my favorite joke in the episode.
Did you ever watch the Comedy Central show TV Funhouse? The Robert Smigel show that was sort of like a fake children's show that had a lot of his like weird animation stuff.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of them. There were the gay duo.
The Christmas episode, I think, is the best one. And the Christmas episode has a bit where it's like, where are people hiding presents? And it's like a fake public service instructional video for children, and it's just about like where to look for your parents are hiding presents, and it just gets increasingly destructive. And like one of the ones is like inside of bread, and you just see children tearing apart loaves of bread looking for, and because they're showing the wrong example every single time the kid finds a present like inside a loaf of bread. And then one of them is like, where do you find the presents? Inside your other toys. And it's just kids breaking apart their own toys to find presents inside. This is the vibe I got from this, is that they're just destroying everything.
It reminded me of the scene in Batman, which hadn't come out yet, actually, now that I think of it, in the Tim Burton Batman, where they're just ruining art just because. Yeah.
It's very fun. It's a good gag. Lyric and Feryl, they end up outside the castle walls. They're like, is this a good idea? They're about to jump down, and Lyric goes, "It's not the drop, old friend. It's the landing," which is just another one of those lines. You're like, what? What?
Did we establish that you've never seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? on a.
I've never seen it. Is that a Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid reference?
It's I can't swim. They have to jump into off a cliff and into water.
Right. Oh, the fall will kill you.
Yeah, swim. The fall will kill you. I think that was a Butch Cassidy reference. Yes.
I see. I did know that line from that movie.
A very clumsy one, but yes.
So they jump off the castle onto the evil magic jail car. And I think it's Recon who's there by the car. Recon has witnessed them just like smash into this car and get hurt. And he goes, "That has to be the stupidest stunt I've ever seen." And Feryl replies, "Oh, shut up." Which is, I like the idea that he's just like still in pain and he can't think of a witty comeback. So he's just like, "Shut up, you're dumb. I hate you."
Yeah, Recon and
this show is
Sindar are the two best villains, I think. Like.
Kravex is pretty good too.
Or Kravex, I meant to say Kravex. Yeah, Recon and Kravex are the two. They're the two you could do episodes on, like just.
So yeah, for sure. And I think Recon is the one we're going to get an episode about later. We'll find out. So he blasts Recon with a laser. They go back into the magical car trunk to get Leoric's power back. We just see Sindar destroying Darkstorm's antique armor collection. The Darkling Lords are about to discover Leoric and Feryl, but Leoric isn't fully restored. So he's like, "Feryl, I need you to distract them to buy time." Feryl has to step in and be the hero in this moment while Leoric is vulnerable. So Feryl appears before them. Sindar now summons his kaiju orc goblin thing, and we are now paying off the gags of them destroying just tiny parts of the castle, with Sindar just destroying the whole fucking castle as he's chasing Feryl in his wolf form. Bricks are crumbling. It's all the animation of like the roofs caving in and stuff like that is really cool looking.
Yeah.
The roof is about to collapse on all the Darkling Lords, so Lexor uses his force field power to protect them. Leoric and Feryl run by in their animal forms. Recon is just waking up from being blasted by a laser. He gets knocked over again as they run to the car. They're driving to the exit of this castle, and Leoric says, "The drawbridge is closed." And Feryl's like, "Not for long." They smash through the door. Again, good-looking wood shattering. They drive it to a moat. The car lands. This is not their car, by the way. This is the evil jail car. So they don't mind just driving it straight into the fucking moat. They use the cannon on the car as a bridge to get back on land. There's a very weird line. I don't think this is tick level. I think this is just bad writing. Leoric goes, "The idea of using the catapult as an escape bridge is brilliant, Feryl." And then Feryl goes, "Elementary, Leoric." It's like, I guess Sir Arthur Conan Doyle exists on Prismos.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have the Once and Future King laying around somewhere. So
the Darkling Lords are flying after them. They get blasted out of the sky. They smash through the wall of Darkstorm's bedroom. The danger is subsided. Feryl feels terrible about getting Leoric into trouble, but Leoric assures him, No. You have an important role in the Spectral Knights. You just proved yourself now. And this is later when they're camping. And then he looks over and they have burnt their eggs and toast on the campfire. And he goes, "But neither of us could save our breakfast." And the scene ends with them holding each other and looking into each other's eyes and shaking hands and caressing each other's arms and calling each other friend, because this episode is horny for Leoric and it wants his daddy approval. This is about daddy. How do we make daddy happy? They drive off into the sunset, a rare episode that doesn't end with them all shouting, "May the light shine forever." There's no meat to these bones. This is just the same fucking plot we've seen before, but I like the animation. I like the weird dialogue. This is kind of a fun episode for me.
Yeah, I think that the whole character who feels sorry for himself and has to realize that he's an important part of the team. I'm pretty sure all of these cartoons do that. I'm pretty sure there's probably a Transformers episode where this happens, and there's probably a G.I. Joe episode where this happens, and so on and so on.
I mean, this is like just like baseline children's entertainment plot. Like there's an episode of Doug where this happens. You know, there's an episode of Pepper Ann where this happens. Tiny Toons probably has an episode where this happens.
I guess it's because kids do feel that way. They feel like they don't belong in their group, and their group has to make sure, you do belong and you are part of us. Yeah. It's particularly clumsy in this one. One note I have here that I didn't mention is that the idea that he thinks he's worthless and that they're better off without him, and then he leaves with one of their two vehicles, and it's a 3-man vehicle. It's like, you know what? I'm bad for this family. I'm going to take the van And now Mom can't drive to work because I left with the van. But don't worry about me. I'm bad for you all. It's very.
I mean, he's a moody teenager. He's not thinking about.
No,
he's not being altruistic.
He's
thinking about
to
himself.
Get drunk, apparently.
Yeah,
he wants to go to Wild West land and get drunk.
Exactly. Yeah, I this is also me. This is like my entire life. I eventually learned to stop doing it in quite so messy ways, but my entire life has been a thing of like me looking at a situation and then blowing it out of proportion and deciding that all my friends hate me and then shunning them before they can shun me, and then slowly building that back. So maybe I like this episode a little bit because I relate to it in an embarrassing way, but not a bad episode. And other than the fact that it is just every time one of the knights gets captured, they have to save the knight. Okay, now the numbers are unbalanced. New Valeric's under threat because it's 7 versus whatever. Like, all that shit is really tedious. But at the very least, like, these episodes sort of are proofing grounds of like, this is what this show is going to be in an episodic way, where there's certain things we're going to pick up and carry on, certain character traits, certain relationships that we're going to sort of develop, but we're also going to have these sort of standalone episodes where everything's resolved at the end. That's all I really have for this episode. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Gabe?
No, I already said. I mean, we already talked about Buzz Dixon. I guess we didn't introduce him like we did with the Harvard grad, but we talked about who he is, and so we've now introduced all 3 writers on this show. They didn't.
That's right.
And again, every episode was directed by the same duo over at TMS. Matsukatsu Iojima and Yasume Mikamoto. Those guys did all the episodes. So we have our 3 writers and our 2 directors. This is all that we get through the rest of. We're not even halfway through our.
Nah. But so it's a 13-episode show. Both Douglas Booth and Buzz Dixon do 3 episodes each, and then Flint Dill does the remaining 7. So it is mostly the Flint Dill show.
Yeah.
I guess as we go on, we're going to try to pick apart if we can detect the writers' personalities yet. We'll have to see if the next Buzz Dixon show also has a bunch of weird lines that feel like they could come from the Tick. Next things, we have a little bit of body horror with Lion Hunt, and we also have episode 7, finally, the overthrow of Merklin. This is the phantasmagoric drug freakout episode that is truly great. October 25th, so it's also maybe their Halloween episode is when it originally aired, October 25th, 1987. So excited for next episode when we cover these.
It's also a good episode for the larger storytelling. It's an episode that sets up what could have been kind of thing. Like it shows how interesting this show could have been.
Yeah, I think we are still, when you're talking about things like the Wild West Saloon, the land pirates, all of these sorts of things, like we are expanding the idea of what Visionaries can be still, which is, that's still like the mark of a show that has more to do. It's when other than, again, we already talked about how they repeat plots or whatever, but at least in expanding the world, it does make you want to keep watching to see what the hell else is going on, especially since we have these plot elements that we're now a little bit removed from. We're like, well, we haven't really seen Merklin at all in the Buzz Dixon and Douglas Booth episodes. We haven't really gotten a follow-up on that one evil wizard who got captured by the Darkling Lords. Mm-hmm. So there's still some dangling plots that we're going to be developing. Gabe, do you have like a little sign-off spiel for this podcast?
Just that, again, I've officially at this point, the podcast has gone live. There's 1 episode available. There will soon be a 2nd episode. This will be the 3rd episode. Trying to do them every 2 weeks. I also set up the YouTube page for it under Wizard Jail, but most of the news will be coming out of Gabe Powers at Blue Sky and off of the genregrinder.com website is where you'll mostly get this. And like Patrick was saying last episode, please tell your friends because no one is watching it as of now. I have 1 view on YouTube, and that might have been me watching it to make sure it
usually
works.
Is.
But I think it's the kind of thing that like one word. I'm not like counting like we're not making money off this, so I'm not like really doing counts. No. And I think that it's something that people will eventually listen to, especially because it's limited and it's only going to be 8 episodes. They don't have to commit to a monthly or weekly or show. Like I think it will pick up. But yes, tell your friends if you're interested in this. Hopefully, either you cared about the show and we're not insulting it too much, or you've never heard of the show and now it sounds interesting. And like I said last time, if you want to watch along, it's on YouTube. It's all over YouTube. There are multiple people who have uploaded this to YouTube. You can pick your image quality based on the YouTube channels.
That's right. And this is a show that if you are a bigger fan of Visionaries than we are, and we are getting things wrong, or you are saying, oh, you didn't notice this little thing from the previous episode ever, drop us a line in the YouTube comments. Let us know. Just be kind. We're, not everyone knows as much about Visionaries as you do. So we're picking it up as we're going along.
Even though
until next time, this is my turn to say the little rhyme. We always end the episodes with a little. Again, the Visionaries have to say a poem basically to activate their staff powers. So I've written a little poem for this episode. Mystic's vision, prognosticator's hunch. That monkey packs a punch.
Zoinks.
Zoinks. Let's go.
Let's go, bumpers. Yeah!